I want to ask you though, Juan, going into camp, going in, not really knowing. You said with no expectations. How did you approach that? And I too came in like I came in maybe a little different, but I had bounced around, the minors. I was on a 10-day. I was on another 10-day. I had to go to Europe. Then I came back, and I remember being in camp, kind of happy to be in camp. Like, yo, this shit is kind of dope. I'm in camp with Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, and Michael Finley. And then there was a time where I said, I can do this shit. Like, given the opportunity, I'm not just gonna be happy to be here. Like, I'm taking the bull by the horns. Like, when did that happen for you? When did you realize, like, yo, this isn't just gonna be me making the team. I'm going to put a stamp on the team.
I mean, there's a little bit of both. I knew during camp that, I could play in this league. I could be on the team. But there was still some things like what the team wanted, what the team needed. I wasn't really sure. Couldn't really tell what direction they were going in. And then, so they waived me and then they put me on two-way. And then, I had a stint, in February. I want to say February 3rd or 2nd, we played the Boston Celtics. And that was my first game, like actually really being incorporated in the actual team. And I played well, and I played about 10 games that stint. And after that, I was like, man, I belong in this league. Like, I can hoop with these dudes. Like, because that was the first time I was really able to just get busy, and Steve allowed me to get busy. Also, we were down some injuries and stuff. I think Loon was injured at the time. So it was kind of like the team needed me at that point, and there was just a lot more opportunity for me. And so I was able to kind of like find myself at the same time, and also find a space on this team in the rotation, see myself being a vital part of this team's success. And with all those things, I was just like, man, I'm in the best league in the world, but I belong in the best league in the world, So that was very uplifting for me and my spirit. And I just felt like as the season progressed, like I just found more confidence in who I was, not only as a person, but as a player, or not only as a player, but as a person as well. Like, I really started to kind of solidify myself as kind of, I don't want to necessarily say a leader, because it's very clear who our leaders are on the team, but I felt like I was able to be an extension also between the young guys, in the leaders. Like, I have a really good relationship with the vets and the older guys, but I'm also always hanging out with the young guys as well. So I felt like I established myself as being that extension between the two different age gaps.
I want to ask another question, Logan. I know this is your guy, but like I'm fascinated just because stories, aren't that unlike each other's. Was there a time in your minor league days, you talk about getting there and realizing, yo, I could put work in here. Were there times in those younger, Juan Toscano-Anderson days bouncing around that you doubted, whether that shit was ever going to come to fruition for you, or did you always hold firm that this was the path?
For sure. I don't want to say I always doubted, but the fact of the matter is I'm a realistic person, and only 300-400 some odd players get to play in the NBA. There's a lot of guys around the world who deserve to be in the NBA who just simply are not for whatever reason. And so that was always like something in the back of my mind, like, man, you may be good enough to play in the NBA. You may do everything that you should and everything that you can, but it may not work out that way. So that was one component of it. And then the other component was just, after college, I kind of lost my love for the game and my confidence. And so those four years of me playing in the G League and overseas, like, that was time for me to rebuild my confidence and find the love for the game again, But all the while, like, I was still dreaming of the NBA, but it seemed so far-fetched. I was playing in Mexico, bro. Like, nobody comes from the Mexican league to the league. Like, I'm the first. That's unheard of. All those guys who are from Mexico, have played in the league, went to Europe first. And so, it just seemed very far-fetched. Even when I went to the G League, there was so many people there was only one person in my life who told me to go to the G League that knows anything about basketball. Like, my family they're in a different conversation because they don't really know anything about basketball and how it works. But, like, a lot of people in Mexico were telling me that I was making a mistake. A lot of people were telling me I wasn't good enough. And the only person that told me to go was my girlfriend. So, it was my own doubt, my own hesitation, but then also hearing everybody else kind of doubt me and be hesitant about the opportunity, kind of like, it threw some shade on on my vision. You know, everybody don't have the vision that I have. And so that was hard for me. And I remember I had to make a decision the very next day. I was on the phone and I remember my girlfriend just being like, nah, go. Like, if it's about the money, we'll figure the money out later, you know? And so then I'm just like, man, I ain't got to do it alone, you know? So worst comes to worst, you know, we'll figure it out together. So that was very uplifting and very, it was good for my confidence.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Wasn't there I feel like we talked about this earlier. Wasn't there like a system? You talked about money and like going to the G League. The money you was making in Mexico was probably like way more than what you're making in the G League. And what,
for sure,
didn't you have a plan of like, yo, I'm going to give this 1 year and I'm going to figure this out if I don't do it? Like you saved up enough bread to to support yourself through a year. Can you talk about that part of it and kind of expound on that part of it? How much did you financially bet on yourself during that year that you gave yourself?
Man, so, I mean, just to put it into perspective, I used to think making $110,000 a year or a season was a lot of money. And it is a lot of money, you know, it is. But it ain't nothing in comparison to an NBA contract. So, obviously, everybody knows the G League is $35,000 a year before taxes. So when I seen that and I seen the buyout was $50,000, I'm like, all right, like, you know, this is a tough situation. The buyout is more than I would actually be making. So worst case scenario, like, I'll be taking the L financially. Either way, whether I stay through the whole season or whether a team in Europe comes to buy me out or whatever. And so, man, that was tough, man. I figured I would only do it for a year, but as the season progressed, like I really found myself in the rotation. I was starting some games when Marcus Derrickson was on two-way. So he was the one playing in front of me at the 4 spot. And so he spent a lot of time up top as well. So whenever he was up top, like I was getting busy. Obviously, when he came down, I had to split minutes with him, and he's the developmental guy. So he's going to get the nudge and, you know, get the majority of the minutes. But towards the end of the season and playoffs, I was actually starting. And then I got invited to Summer League. And then during Summer League, I got invited to camp. So between the end of the G League season in camp, I had multiple offers from teams in Spain, ACB, which if you're not in the league, ACB is the goal, you know? And so, honestly, man, that was hard for me to turn down. I turned down about 3 deals from ACB teams. And, you know, I was going to camp. They told me it was like, you got to come in and earn a spot, beat somebody out and so forth. And so, once I got to that point, I just felt like I was too close to go back overseas. Like I'm pretty much knocking at the door. I got 1 foot in. I got into camp. I got waived. I'm going back to the G League now though. But now that I'm going back to Santa Cruz, I'm the guy on the team. Yeah. You know, I'm the leader. I'm all that stuff. I'm the captain. And so, Golden State likes me. I just got to get better at certain things. Like the opportunity to be there. And so that's what made me decide to stay another year.
I remember as a journalist and stuff, and you have 1 foot into like your opportunity and 1 foot of still kind of being able to make it. You know, when you get to that one, you see that line right there, but you're not right there just yet. You're talking about that. Right. What is that like for you when you're like, man, I'm putting all my chips into this goal right now, and this shit might not work. And, you know, I think I remember seeing you in training camp, and I feel like you were in that mindset. What is that mindset like to where it's like, yo, I can see this happening, but it is no guarantee that I'm going to make it. And I put bread up for this. I put my whole like basketball life up for this, and it still might not work, but I'm going to go anyway. How was that? I guess this was 2019. What was that time like for you?
It's stressful, but, you know, when you put it in perspective, man, it's a good problem to have. I mean, there are people out there with real problems in life. You know, I get to wake up and play basketball, and I get paid for it, and I get the opportunity to compete at the highest level. Like, in perspective, man, that's really not a problem. It's just stressful because, you know, you desire something so much, and there's a possibility of it not happening. So it's kind of more like your feelings being hurt. Like when I got waived that first time, that was the first time in my life that I got cut. And to be honest, I got in my car and I almost started crying. Like that hurt. You know, obviously it hurt to be cut, but to be cut from the NBA, from an NBA team where I felt like, damn, I'm that close to being on an NBA team. So it was stressful because this is what I want and this is where I wanted to go. And like playing overseas is stressful, bro. People don't really realize how stressful that is. Like, you know, sometimes you may not be getting your money. Sometimes, you know, you may be stuck in a place because of, you know, the politics there. Like I got friends who are playing in Israel right now and they can't come home. You know, I was playing in Venezuela for some time and they were having political turmoil there. Like, you know, when you go to different countries, you're dealing with all this stuff. You know, you ain't got your family, whatever the case may be. You jumping around from country to country. Like all those things are taxing on the mind and the spirit. And so like, I just wanted to be here so bad. And those were my desires. So, like I said, and when you're in the moment, it's really stressful and it can be defeating sometimes if you don't stand tall through it. But like when you put it in perspective, bro, that ain't a real problem to have. People are trying to figure out where their next meal come from.